My brother brought his girlfriend home for a holiday dinner. For the first time, right in the middle of dinner, she suddenly turned to me. Chloe Davis. You look so familiar. Oh wait, I know where I've seen you. Pornhub girl. You've got a killer body. Then she slapped her hand over her mouth, like she'd accidentally let something slip. Everyone at the table froze. Then they all started coming at me. Kids these days have zero shame. What's her stage name? I gotta look that up. But I just calmly sat down my fork and smiled at her. You know what? You look familiar too. Alright, I've done a few abortions on you. My brother was bringing his girlfriend home this year. And mom was so excited. She invited all the relatives over for a big family dinner. At the table, his girlfriend Serena was on her best behavior, raising toasts to the adults, cracking jokes, totally winning over my mom. Even the relatives were telling Brandon he'd found a good one. Everyone was enjoying the warm, fuzzy vibes Serena had created. When one of my aunts turned to me, Chloe, you work in New York, right? You must be making bank. Your cousin's graduating next year. You should hook her up with a job. Other relatives jumped in. Your mom says you sent her 15 a month. That's impressive. Not like our son can't even find work. Chloe, what exactly do you do in the city anyway? I was about to answer when Serena sat down her glass and cut in. Chloe, I know this is our first time meeting, but I swear I've seen you somewhere before. I gave her a polite smile. Maybe I just have one of those faces. She shook her head, studying me closely. No, it's not that. I've definitely seen you. Oh my God. Something clicked and her face lit up like she just solved a mystery. I know. You're on Pornhub, aren't you? The whole table went dead silent. Serena acted like she didn't notice and kept going. I've seen your pics. Your body is insane. I can't believe I'm actually meeting you in person. Then she clapped a hand over her mouth. Playing the oops, I said, too much card. I was floored. Couldn't believe she'd just make up something like that right there. My first instinct was to call her out. What the hell are you talking about? She immediately put on this hurt, apologetic act. Oh my God, Chloe. I'm so sorry. I just blurted it out without thinking. I had no idea it was you. I really didn't mean anything by it. Please don't be mad. By now, every relative at the table was staring me down. Kids today are so open-minded. No wonder she's always too busy to come home. Now we know what she's been busy with. No wonder she's got money. She's selling herself. How embarrassing. The aunt who just asked me to help her daughter quickly backpedaled. Forget what I said. My daughter would never do anything like that. It's disgusting. Mom's face turned beet red from all the whispering. Her hands were shaking. She looked at me like she didn't recognize me. Chloe, are you really on Pornhub? Brandon's eyes were blazing. Chloe, is it true? Did you actually do something that trashy? No, I didn't. I cut them off loud and clear. They still look skeptical, their faces tight with doubt. I stared at Serena, the one who'd started all this, feeling like I was about to explode. This was my first time meeting her. We had no history, no beef. Yet she'd pulled this stunt out of nowhere. I lower my voice. Serena, you can't just go around making stuff up. That's called defamation. At that, Serena's eyes got watery. She whispered like a scared little kid. Chloe, I really didn't mean it. Can you please forgive me? One sentence could have cleared this up, but she kept dancing around it on purpose. I had no clue what I'd done to set her off, but for Brandon's sake, I held my temper. Serena, whoever you're thinking of, it's not me. It can't be. You've got the wrong person. I was trying to give her an out. She acted like I was bullying her. She started choking up. Chloe, why are you being so mean? You're scaring me. I really didn't mean anything by it. I didn't know your family would make such a big deal. The person in the photo just looked like you. So I mentioned it. How is that slander? She kept circling back to the same thing, basically implying I was guilty, but too ashamed to admit it. I finally snapped. Serena, I've never done anything to you. Why are you coming after me like this? And then she cried. She hid behind Brandon, playing the helpless victim. I'm just honest. I say what I think. Brandon, you have to believe me. I wasn't trying to attack Chloe. Brandon immediately pulled her close to comfort her. Then he turned on me, furious. Chloe, why do you have to be so aggressive? If you didn't do anything wrong, how could Serena just make it up? Get some self-awareness. His words hit me like a slap. He didn't care that I was his sister, even if we weren't super close. I never thought he'd take a stranger's side against me. Just like that, the relatives piled on. Exactly. If you don't want people talking, don't do it in the first place. Serena's such a sweet girl. She wouldn't lie. I bet Chloe really did do something shameful. Mom slammed her hand on the table, pointing at my face. Chloe, tell me the truth. Did you do those disgusting things or not? If you did, you're dead to me. I told Mom again, I didn't do anything. Then I looked around the room. finally landing on Serena. Serena, if you really saw my photos on some site, show me the proof. Otherwise, I'm calling the cops right now for defamation. Her eyes flickered. Then she got up to grab her phone from the other room. Fine. I'll prove it. I'll find those pics right now. She came back with her phone and pulled up the photo in front of everyone. She let everyone look and shoved the screen in my face. Her voice had a little edge of triumph. See for yourself. Chloe, I'm not making this up. I had my friend's boyfriend find it on that site. This side profile is definitely you. The photo showed someone in skimpy lingerie. The side profile did look a lot like me, like 90% similar, but I hadn't done it. So, I wasn't admitting to anything. The second she came back with that photo, something felt off, like I've been secretly photographed. I said it out loud. What does a side profile prove? Wait, did you sneak a picture of me and use AI to fake this? I looked right into Serena's eyes. She flinched, but she doubled down on the victim act. Chloe, you can't just accuse me because you don't want to admit the truth. We're family. Why would I lie about you? I shouldn't have come. If it weren't for me, your family would have had a nice dinner. She sounded so sincere that the relatives rushed to defend her. Aunt Carol sneered at me. Chloe, you're shameless? And you're blaming others? Having you as a relative is embarrassing. Uncle Robert was furious. You're going to ruin the Davis name. How can you face your late father? More relatives chimed in, getting nastier. Pathetic. What was the point of college? If she were my kid, I'd have smacked her into next week. So trashy. Can't believe we're related. Mom was shaking all over. She'd always cared about appearances. Seeing that evidence pushed her over the edge. Chloe, how did I raise you? You just had to go and disgrace yourself. How did I end up with a daughter like you? Hearing all of it, I felt completely powerless. My own mom and brother, the people closest to me, didn't believe me. Then Serena spoke again. This time she was encouraging me to own up and start fresh. Chloe, it doesn't matter if your body's been, as long as your heart's in the right place. Don't worry. We won't tell anyone. I let out a cold laugh. Serena, you know damn well whether that's me in that photo. And as for dirty, you're the dirtiest one here. I locked eyes with her, daring her to keep lying. She seemed rattled. She shrank back into Brandon's arms. The silence in the dining room was so heavy you could choke on it. Brandon tightened his grip on Serena's shoulders, puffing his chest out like a knight defending his maiden. Chloe, what the hell is wrong with you? Apologize to her. Now. You're deflecting because she caught you. I didn't look at my brother. I didn't look at my mother, whose face was buried in her hands, or the aunts and uncles who were muttering under their breath about how I'd ruin the family name. My eyes were locked onto Serena's. She was staring back at me from the safety of Brandon's embrace. Her eyes were wide, glassy with unshed tears, but beneath that pathetic, trembling facade, I saw it. A flicker of cold, hard calculation. A microscopic twitch of the lips that told me she was enjoying this. But as I stared at her, studying the slope of her nose, the distinct shape of her jawline, and that specific, theatrical way she bit her lower lip when she was trying to look innocent, something in my brain finally clicked. The haze of anger parted, replaced by a sudden, icy clarity. I work as a senior nurse practitioner at a very discreet, very expensive women's health clinic on the Upper East Side. We cater to high-net-worth individuals, socialites, and sometimes the collateral damage of wealthy men. Discretion is our entire business model. Faces blur together after a few years, but drama? Drama you remember. I calmly set my fork down on my plate. The clink of the silver against the porcelain sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table, and smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. You know what, Serena? I said, my voice dangerously soft but carrying easily across the room. You were right. We have met before. I thought you just had one of those generic dime-a-dozen faces, but looking at you cry, it all comes back to me. Serena's breath hitched. The smugness behind her eyes vanished, replaced instantly by a raw, primal panic. She tried to step back, but Brandon was holding her. I know exactly where I've seen you, I continued, savoring the sudden terror radiating from her. All right, I've done a few abortions on you. 3, to be exact. At the Lexington Avenue Women's Clinic in New York. The room didn't just go silent this time. It felt like a vacuum had sucked all the oxygen out of the house. What? Brandon whispered, dropping his hands from her shoulders as if she had suddenly caught fire. Chloe, shut up. Serena shrieked. It wasn't the soft, trembling voice of a victim anymore. It was shrill, desperate, and entirely ugly. She's lying. Brandon, she's making it up because I exposed her. Am I? I stood up slowly. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The first one was in October 2 years ago. Paid for by a Mr. Richard Sterling. He's about 60, wears a lot of Tom Ford, has a wife in Connecticut. The second one was 8 months later. Different guy. The third one was just this past February. You cried in the recovery room, not because of the procedure, but because the guy, a hedge fund manager whose name I won't drop, blocked your number and canceled the Amex he gave you. Shut up. Shut up. Serena lunged across the table, grabbing her wine glass and hurling it at me. I stepped aside, and the glass shattered against the wall behind me, spraying red wine over the floral wallpaper. My mother screamed. Aunt Carol gasped, clutching her pearls. You recognized me the second you sat down, I said, ignoring the chaos, keeping my eyes pinned on her. You realized that your new boyfriend's sister was the nurse who knows exactly what you do, for a living in the city. You panicked. You knew I'd figured out eventually, so you decided to strike first. You had your little friend use an AI generator to slap my face onto a porn star's body to destroy my credibility. If I'm a disgraced, trashy liar, Brandon would never believe me when I told him he was dating a professional sugar baby who preys on wealthy men. Brandon looked like he had been hit by a truck. He stared at Serena, his mouth opening and closing. Serena, what is she talking about? Richard Sterling? Who is that? Serena's face was blotchy, the sweet, demure mask completely shattered. She grabbed Brandon's arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. She's insane. Brandon, she's a psycho. You're going to believe a porn star over me? I'm a licensed nurse practitioner, you idiot, I said coldly. And frankly, I couldn't care less what you do with your body. But coming into my mother's house, eating her food, and trying to ruin my life just to cover your own tracks? That's where I draw the line. I turned to my mother, who was hyperventilating in her chair, staring at the ruined dinner and the wine-stained wall. Mom, I said, my voice flat. I make my money working 60-hour weeks at a clinic. I sent you that money because I loved you. But since you were so quick to believe a stranger with a badly photoshopped picture over the daughter you raised. I shook my head, a bitter taste flooding my mouth. Don't ever call me again. Chloe, wait. Uncle Robert started, but I cut him off with a glare so venomous he actually took a step back. And all of you. I swept my gaze over the relatives who, just minutes ago, were calling me a disgrace. You're pathetic. You couldn't wait to tear me down because you're miserable in your own lives. Enjoy your dinner. I didn't wait for a response. I turned on my heel, grabbed my coat from the hallway, and walked out the front door into the crisp, freezing night. As I got into my car, I could hear muffled shouting coming from inside the house. Brandon yelling. Serena sobbing hysterically. I started the engine, backed out of the driveway, and didn't look back in the rearview mirror. The drive back to New York took 4 hours. By the time I unlocked the door to my apartment, the adrenaline had worn off, leaving behind a cold, hard resolve. Serena thought she could play dirty. She had no idea who she was dealing with. The next morning, I called a favor from an old friend, Marcus. Marcus worked in cybersecurity for a major financial firm and moonlighted as a digital forensics expert. We met at a coffee shop in Midtown. I slid my phone across the table. On the screen was the photo Serena had shown at the dinner table. I had managed to snap a quick picture of her phone screen during the chaos while everyone was distracted by the broken glass. Marcus adjusted his glasses, zooming in on the image. Deep fake, he said immediately. And not even a high-end one. See the lighting on the collarbone? It doesn't match the shadow cast by the jawline. The pixel density around the neck is inconsistent. It's a face swap app, probably a paid version, but still amateur hour. Can you trace it? I asked, sipping my black coffee. Trace the app? Sure. Trace the original photo? Even easier. Marcus tapped a few keys on his laptop, running the image through a reverse search algorithm. Within 30 seconds, he turned the screen to me. There it was. The exact same photo, same lingerie, same background. Except the face belonged to a well-known Eastern European adult model. I need more than just the original, I told him. I need proof that she made it. Or had someone make it. Her name is Serena Vance. Well, that's the name she gave my brother. At the clinic, she went by Samantha Vance. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Samantha Vance? Give me an hour. It didn't even take him that long. 45 minutes later, Marcus had compiled a dossier that made my blood run cold. Your brother really knows how to pick them, Marcus said, turning his laptop toward me. Serena/Samantha is quite the entrepreneur. He pulled up a hidden profile on a high-end sugar baby networking site. There she was, posing on a yacht, looking for generous mentors. But that wasn't the worst part. Marcus had dug into public court records across 3 states. She has 2 civil suits pending against her, Marcus explained. Extortion. She finds wealthy, married men, gets them in a compromising position, and then threatens to send photos to their wives unless they pay up. Most of them settle out of court to keep it quiet. But 2 of them decided to fight back. She's currently drowning in legal fees. She's broke. I realized, the puzzle pieces snapping together. That's why she's dating Brandon. Brandon wasn't a billionaire, but he had just inherited a very comfortable sum of money from our late father's life insurance policy, and he had a solid, high-paying tech job. To a shark like Serena, who was running out of rich older men willing to risk their marriages, Brandon was a safe, naive, and highly lucrative meal ticket. And I was the only person who could blow her cover. My phone buzzed on the table. It was a text from my mother. Chloe, Brandon and Serena are very upset. Serena admitted she made a mistake with the photo, but she said you were incredibly cruel about her medical history. Brandon wants you to apologize to her. If you don't, he says he's cutting you off. We are all very disappointed in your behavior. I stared at the text. I read it twice to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. She admitted she made a mistake with the photo. They knew it was fake. They knew she lied. And yet, I was the one who needed to apologize because I wasn't polite enough when defending myself against a career-destroying accusation. A dark, humorless laugh escaped my throat. Bad news? Marcus asked. No, I said, locking my phone. Just confirmation that I don't need to hold back anymore. Marcus, how much will it cost to get certified? Irrefutable proof of the digital trail linking Serena to that deepfake, plus her public court documents. For you? A bottle of Macallan 18. Deal. I need it by Friday. Over the next few days, the messages from my family became increasingly unhinged. My mother called, leaving tearful voicemails about how family is family and how I was ruining Brandon's happiness. Aunt Carol texted me, telling me that I owed Serena compensation for emotional distress. But the most telling message came from Brandon himself. Chloe, Serena is traumatized by what you did. She's talking about leaving me because she doesn't feel safe with my family. I'm going to propose to her this weekend to prove I love her. Mom is throwing us an engagement dinner on Saturday. You're going to come, you're going to apologize in front of everyone, and you're going to help pay for the wedding. It's the least you can do after slandering her. He was proposing to her. She had manipulated the situation so perfectly that Brandon was rushing to lock her down, terrified of losing her. And she was using my cruelty as the catalyst. I didn't reply to Brandon. Instead, I texted my mother. I'll be there on Saturday. I have something I need to show everyone. Saturday evening arrived. The dinner was being held at a high-end steakhouse in our hometown, in a private dining room my mother had undoubtedly drained her savings to rent, just to impress Serena. I wore a tailored black suit, sharp and uncompromising. I carried nothing but a small clutch containing a USB drive and a stack of printed, legally verified documents. When I walked into the private room, the atmosphere instantly froze. Serena was sitting next to Brandon, wearing a demure white dress, a massive diamond ring glittering on her finger. My mother, Aunt Carol, Uncle Robert, and a few other relatives were clustered around them, practically worshipping at Serena's feet. Brandon stood up, puffing his chest. You came. I did, I said, taking an empty seat across from him. I didn't look at Serena. Not yet. We're waiting for your apology, Chloe, Aunt Carol sneered. Serena has been gracious enough to allow you here. I'm sure she has, I replied calmly. But before I say anything, I want to clarify something. Brandon, you know the photo Serena showed at Thanksgiving was fake, right? Brandon crossed his arms defensively. She explained that. A friend sent it to her, and she thought it was real. She was just concerned for you. You didn't have to attack her with vicious lies. Vicious lies, I repeated, letting the words roll around in my mouth. I finally looked at Serena. She was clutching Brandon's arm, playing the fragile fawn, but her eyes were darting toward the exit. She knew she was trapped. I'm not here to talk about her medical history, I said. That was unprofessional of me, even if it was true. I'm here to talk about her financial history. What are you talking about? Mom snapped. Stop causing trouble, Chloe. I unlatched my clutch and pulled out the thick stack of papers, tossing them onto the center of the table. They hit the wood with a heavy thud. Serena Vance isn't her legal name, I said, my voice cutting through the murmurs. It's Samantha Vance. And she's currently being sued in the state of New York and New Jersey for extortion. That's a lie. Serena screamed, jumping to her feet. Brandon, she's photoshopping things again. Let's go. Sit down, I commanded, projecting the authoritative voice I used when dealing with panicked patients. It worked. Serena hesitated, and in that second, Uncle Robert, who was a retired accountant, reached for the papers. Let's see here, Uncle Robert muttered, adjusting his reading glasses. Don't read those. Serena lunged across the table, trying to snatch the papers, but she knocked over a water pitcher, drenching the tablecloth. The first document, I said loudly, talking over the chaos, is a civil suit filed by a CEO in Manhattan. He claims Samantha Vance demanded $200,000 to keep quiet about an affair. The second is from a real estate developer in Newark. Same story. Brandon was pale. Serena, what is this? She's lying. She hates me. She's jealous of me. Serena wailed, tears streaming down her face. I also brought the digital forensics report. I continued smoothly, sliding a second, smaller stack of papers toward Brandon. Compiled by a certified cybersecurity firm. It tracks the IP address that requested and paid for the deepfake porn image of me. The IP address belongs to Serena's phone. She didn't get it from a friend. She commissioned it, specifically to discredit me before I could warn you about her. The room was dead silent. The only sound was the drip, drip, drip of the spilled water hitting the carpet. Uncle Robert looked up from the court documents. His face was gray. These are stamped by the county clerk, Brandon. These are real court filings. My mother looked like she was going to faint. Serena, you're being sued? Brandon stared at the IP trace report in his hands. He wasn't stupid when it came to tech. He knew what he was looking at. He slowly turned his head to look at the woman he had just proposed to. You made that photo, his voice broke. You tried to ruin my sister's life. Why? Serena realized the victim act wasn't going to work anymore. The tears stopped instantly. Her posture straightened, and a nasty, cornered animal look came over her face. Because she's a smug bitch. Serena spat, her voice venomous. She thought she was so much better than me, looking down her nose at me at that clinic. I knew she'd try to ruin this for me. Ruin what? Brandon asked, stepping away from her. My life. Oh, grow up, Brandon, Serena sneered, dropping the sweet voice entirely. You think I want to live in the suburbs with you and your suffocating mother? You're a paycheck. You've got $500,000 in the bank from your dad, and I have legal fees to pay. I was going to marry you, take half in the divorce, and never look at your pathetic family again. The collective gasp from the relatives was cinematic. Aunt Carol clutched her chest. My mother let out a small, strangled sob. Get out, Brandon whispered, his hands shaking. Gladly, Serena said. She grabbed her purse, but before she left, she looked down at the massive diamond ring on her finger. As she smirked, turning to leave with it. The ring, Samantha, I said sharply. She paused, glaring at me with pure hatred. For a second, I thought she was going to attack me. But I just raised an eyebrow, entirely unfazed. With a frustrated scream, she yanked the ring off her finger, threw it at Brandon's chest, and stormed out of the private room, slamming the door behind her. For a long time, nobody spoke. The heavy, oppressive silence returned, but this time, it felt entirely different. The self-righteousness had been sucked out of the room, leaving only profound, suffocating shame. Brandon sank into his chair, burying his face in his hands. He was crying. My mother slowly turned to me, her eyes red and puffy. Chloe, oh my God. Chloe, I am so sorry. Me too, Chloe. Aunt Carol piped up, her voice trembling. We had no idea. She was such a good actress. We were just trying to protect the family. Protect the family, I repeated, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. I stood up, adjusting the lapels of my jacket. I picked up my clutch. Chloe, please, my mother pleaded, reaching out a hand toward me. Sit down. Let's order dinner. We need to talk about this. We need to heal as a family. Heal. I looked down at her, feeling absolutely nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just a profound, liberating emptiness. There's nothing to heal, Mom. The wound isn't new. It just finally got infected enough for me to cut it off. Brandon looked up, his face a mess of tears and snot. Chloe, I'm sorry. I was stupid. I just wanted to be loved. And you were willing to sacrifice me to get it, I said to him, my voice devoid of emotion. When a stranger accused me of something vile, none of you, not my mother, not my brother, not my blood, gave me the benefit of the doubt. You couldn't wait to believe the worst about me. You called me trash. You asked if I was selling myself. You told me I was dead to you. My mother flinched as if I had slapped her. I was just angry. I didn't mean it. People tell you exactly who they are when they're angry, I replied. And you all showed me exactly what you think of me. You didn't invite me here today to apologize. You invited me here to force me to submit to a gold digger because you cared more about appearances than you cared about my life. Chloe, don't be like this, Uncle Robert said, trying to use his authority voice. Family is family. Not anymore, I said. I walked toward the door. I placed my hand on the brass handle, pausing for one final moment. Don't call me, I said without looking back. Don't text me. The $1,500 a month I've been sending you, Mom? That stops today. Brandon, you have your inheritance. Use it to pay for therapy. Because if any of you ever try to contact me again, I won't just block you. I'll get a restraining order. Chloe, you can't, my mother shrieked, the reality of the money and her daughter vanishing at the same time finally hitting her. Watch me, I said. I opened the door and walked out into the restaurant. The ambient noise of clinking glasses and chatter washed over me, drowning out the sounds of my mother sobbing in the private room. Epilogue. 3 years later. New York in the spring is beautiful. The air is crisp, the parks are green, and the city hums with a frantic, electric energy. I took a sip of my matcha latte, looking out the window of my corner office. I had been promoted to clinic director a year ago. Life was busy, demanding, and incredibly peaceful. My phone buzzed on the desk. It was Marcus. We had started dating about a year after the dinner party incident. He was smart, kind, and incredibly good at running background checks. Reservations at Le Bernardin at Boileau. Where something stunning. Love you. I smiled, tapping out a quick reply. Already planning on it. Love you too. I hadn't spoken to my family since that night at the steakhouse. It hadn't been easy at first. There were voicemails left from unknown numbers, letters returned to sender, and a few pathetic attempts by Aunt Carol to reach me on LinkedIn of all places. I ignored them all. Eventually, they got the message. From what I heard through the grapevine, a mutual friend from high school who still lived in our hometown, things hadn't gone well for Brandon. Without my monthly stipend to help Mom, Brandon had to dip into his inheritance to keep up the house's mortgage and his mother's lifestyle. He started day trading to try and make it back, panicked, and lost a significant chunk of it. He was currently living in the basement of our childhood home, working a miserable mid-level IT job, single and bitter. As for Serena/Samantha, her luck had finally run out. One of the men she tried to extort happened to be best friends with a federal prosecutor. She was charged with wire fraud and extortion. I didn't bother checking how much time she got. She was a ghost, a bad memory that had ultimately done me the greatest favor of my life. She had handed me the scissors I needed to cut the dead weight out of my life. I turned back to my computer, opening the file for my next patient. The past was exactly where it belonged, behind me. And the future? The future was mine, built on my own terms and completely, beautifully untethered.